Lou Hamilton from Audible Elegance here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I write a monthly blog on our website, audibleelegance.com. We do work on Facebook and Instagram. We're located across from the Montgomery, or down the street from the Montgomery Inn, across the street from Montgomery Cyclery. And today I'm going to do something kind of fun because a lot of people have no idea what the inside of a cartridge looks like. And so we're going to do some fun with you. We're going to explode a Rega ND7. Now, this is also an example of what can happen in transit. And so we did not start out with a perfectly fine ND7 and destroy it. I want you to know that. That would be more than tragic. We received this cartridge through normal means. And as I talk about with, buying used gear and how being proper packaged, well, this thing was properly packaged, but it probably went through some sort of dynamic accelerator and slammed into something. So now I'm going to show you what happened, but it gives us an opportunity for you to see the reality of it. So this is a Rega ND7 exploded. And this gives us an opportunity to show you how fine and intricate everything is. This is what's known as a moving magnet. This is the coil system here, right and left channel. This was the back plate that literally got popped off in transit. So it took quite a brutal shot. I don't know whether we can get one of the wires clearly enough away for you to see. Here's one here. But to understand the fineness of it, this is actually more fine than a human hair. Right here. Now, the way that a moving magnet works, I'll let you read about all of the wonderful elements of the ND7, but the way that a moving magnet works is that, in fact, you have a magnetic structure that is moved around the coils, and that's what's generating the electricity. Now, the electrical output of this system is typically 10 to 100 times that of a moving coil, where in fact the magnetic structure is fixed in place on a moving coil, and then they have a small coil of wire passing around them to generate the electricity. Let's see if we can take this further. From the rear, you can see the supporting structure. Again, I'm going to twist it just slightly so you can see the reflections of the wire. Let's see if we can highlight it a bit better for you. You begin to see how intricate it is, and you'll see that you have this structure for both the hot and the ground on each channel. 2 coils each side. So you can begin to see how intricate the workmanship is to actually build these things. So that's an ND7 exploded, and it's unfortunate, but these sort of things can happen. And my thank you to Rega for giving me the opportunity to show you this. It's certainly extraordinarily rare for anything like this to happen, and it was very fortuitous, as we feel that the ND7 is quite an astounding cartridge. But I guess the only way of saying it is, so are the violet monkeys in the postal system. They can be pretty intense too. Now, while I'm here and I'm going to talk about this, we've had a couple inquiries when I've talked about stylus cleaning of what to use. And some people have got the idea of using some sort of fluid on a cartridge. Now, depending upon how the cartridge is made, that may be not such a good idea to a terrible idea. And the key element here, now that you begin to see the size and the scale of everything, is how the cantilever system is made. Some of them use a solid shaft. Some of them will use what I call a pinched shaft. In other words, they get a piece of paper out. They take a hollow core, and then when they get down to here, they actually crimp it. So if you look at it from head on, it looks like this. Now, this being hollow, if you use a fluid, and now you can begin to see the size and the scale of everything, the risk you run into is that the fluid becoming wicked up the hollow core itself. I mean, this time it would happen at this end going this way and getting into this magnetic structure or interfering with the movement of the magnets to this structure. We have had reports of certain substances being used where once the manufacturer who had a claim for a defective cartridge opened it up, they could actually find some of the fluid having wicked up and crystallized inside of the structure itself. This is, again, this is where you have a hollow cantilever system. This is where it can really go wrong. If it's a solid core, you can still get capillary action up on the outside, but nothing like what's going to happen in a hollow core. While I'm at it and we're having a discussion about this, there's also a couple different ways that the styli themselves are manufactured and mounted. You can see some lovely pictures on the web of this, but sometimes what they do is they have essentially a square shaft, all right, and then it's honed down to create the stylus surface. It can be elliptical, it can be, hyperbolic, and all sorts of shapes. Now, a lot of manufacturers do this approach. Any of you who had turntables in the 80s and 90s, one of the most dreaded cartridges to own was the Shure M91ED. And it wasn't because it was a bad sounding cartridge. It was because rather than a single piece of material, they actually used essentially a metal shaft, and then glued to it was the diamond stylus. And while this was designed to deal with playing and drag going this way, it had a very poor response to being bumped sideways or back cued. So it was not uncommon for people to have to buy 2 or 3 Shure M91 styli. I worked at Sight and Sound here in Cincinnati at that time. People were always buying new styli because they bumped the arm while the record, the arm was down on the record, and it's literally sheared off the diamond. Which is one of the reasons why, and I'm sorry they're not around anymore, Stanton was extraordinarily popular because they used the solid system, and they were bulletproof, which is why DJs and everybody else used them. Radio stations used them like crazy, particularly the 500AL, because you could back cue them without destroying the cartridge and the styli. So that's a little bit of letting you see the inside. of a cartridge system. Again, you can see how fine it is. Let me see if I can, do it sideways, and maybe you can see how fine the wire is there. But it's a lot of workmanship. So there's a reason these puppies do cost a chunk of change. Is because that's not necessarily a simple task. It's very fine, and I'm sure there's some degree of rejection that goes on as these things are built. So my thank you to Bryce and to Rega for giving us the opportunity to show this one. And unfortunately, this is probably about the best use for it now, is to let other people see it and show it. So we'll be sending this back on now to Rega, and if they want to share this system with other dealers so that they can see what was going on and how it was assembled, that'd be great. So thank you again, guys, and we'll get her on our way now.